So, deduction stories. I don't get to tell many of these because I try to only pick stories where I use deduction that are also informative. I don't like to just tell stories to tell stories. I like to make sure that there's a lesson to be learned in each of them. And that's the case with this one, I believe. I hope. Specifically today I'll be talking about occurrences where I've dealt with opposition to my deductive abilities. I've mentioned more than once that my family, when it comes to, well, in more ways than one, but specifically when it comes to deduction, and my use of deduction is divided. My father was a deductionist before I was, so he's always been, he always thinks it's a cool trait, ability. My brother, he idolizes me, looks up to me, he follows my footsteps, he learns everything from me he can, and he has some cognitive disabilities that training in deduction actually helps him to focus and beat. However, my mother, on the other side of that spectrum, there's my mother, who is not as supporting of it as I would like. Me and my mother get along great, and everything. Me and my father do not get along great. But yeah, she'll more often than not make a joke about deduction than actually support of it. She's not opposed, unlike my sister. My sister, on the other hand, is very, very opposed to deduction. She will take any opportunity she can to belittle me about it. And that's where the story comes in today. When we were younger, the three of us, I may have even been younger than 13, which is when I really started to delve into deduction, but probably younger than that, I was still doing deduction and stuff like that more naturally than organized or with a foundation. But I was still doing something that would be akin to deduction, just untrained. Anyway, our property is very, very close to the highway. It's our property ends less than 10 feet from the highway. So junk that gets thrown out of cars ends up in our yard quite a lot. I was out exploring our property, and one day I came upon a wallet. And this is probably the first time that I realized that my sister was not supportive about this study. But I brought the wallet in, I took it apart, I laid all the cards out. There was no money in it, there was no credit cards or anything like that, no license in it, which I thought was very odd, because there were several things in there that did indicate an adult owned the wallet. But before I got a chance to lay it out, my father took it, and he took it to the police station to report it. But my sister was very opposed, trying to tell me to stop, and to this day, I still don't know why she really doesn't like deduction, why she tries to make a fuss about it. But that was the first experience. The second experience is much similar. I was, again, out in our property, and I came across a bag, a purse. This time with even less in it. Only hairpins, some bobby pins, some loose change, and like a Sudoku game book and a number 2 pencil. That was all that was in this bag. And I was already starting to, because I found some information in the Sudoku book, and obviously the pins told me that it was, the bobby pins told me it was a woman, and I was putting together information about the owner of the bag. I was building a profile from the bag, and she, in a rage, took the bag from the table and ran it out to the dumpster and threw it away. That dramatically. which I couldn't understand, because here I am trying to make an effort to return it to the person that owns it. And granted, the person who owned it probably didn't want it back. There was not much in it to begin with. But I was at least making a concerted effort to do something constructive with my abilities. And my sister went out of her way to prevent me from doing that. The point of this story is that not everyone will be supportive of deduction. Some people will be outright opposed, and there's not much you can do about it. I have, on more than one occasion, proved myself and my abilities correct in front of my sister. It hasn't changed her mind. It hasn't changed her position. It hasn't changed her opinion on deduction. I don't understand why she's opposed to it. I probably never will. But being aggressive with your deduction will not help anyone, yourself or the people that are opposed, to understand deduction better, to understand what's going on better. It will only hinder, in the end, any kind of progress. And the best thing you can do is, obviously you can't completely avoid people who would be opposing. She is my sister. I can't completely avoid her. But I don't have to talk about deduction around her. I don't have to say these things out loud. And it's not a bad thing to learn to bridle your tongue when it comes to deduction. It doesn't hurt at all to learn to bridle your tongue, to rein yourself in. Making deductions doesn't need to be out loud. You can make all the deductions you want without speaking a word of them. But don't let those people discourage you. That's their goal, and there is a lot of that I'm finding out in this community. I didn't realize for a long time how much opposition there is to deduction, that there actually is a lot of opposition. It comes from many different fields. It comes from people who are simply opposed to deduction. It comes from people who are out to stop the community. There's a community that's being built up, and people don't like that. And there's not much we can do about that. What you can do is build up the community. You can, I'm in a parking lot, that's why it's loud. You can build up a community. You can work with others. I have 2 Watsons, and my brother is a protege, and I have students. And having 1 or 2 supporters is worth far more than having 10, 15, or 20 people who oppose you. And I spend a significant amount of time with those people who do support it, compared to those who do not so much support it. But you can come to an understanding with those people that you do have to interact with. Even though my sister and my mother aren't necessarily supporters of it, we have an understanding where I won't outright be obnoxious with my deductions if they don't push me back. And that's what you can, that's really the only thing you can do. That is it for this deduction story, though. I've got a lot of other content coming, and I'm excited about most of it. Yeah, I'm excited about all of it. Nothing bad coming, don't worry. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.